That in 2019, we adopted into the law that housing is a human right. If you go outside, I'm sure you see that Canada is not fulfilling that promise or following the law.
Housing affordability is out of reach of so many Canadians now that it feels like everyone is going to be a renter in the next 5 to 10 years, and that seems to be the process. In fact, I would argue there is a lot of people higher up who want that to be a reality. Even the housing minister in Canada said that houses shouldn't be cheap, they should be expensive. Well, I'm paraphrasing, but if you go watch that clip, we've done a video on that, and it's pretty shocking, but not surprising here in Canada. With that being said, we're going to be talking about the housing crisis in Canada and how will it ever get solved. Let's react to some TikTok videos. Obviously, leave your thoughts about this video subject down below in the comment section, and let's dive into a very tricky topic.
So Canada has a plan to fix the housing crisis, and according to this article released by the Canadian Press, at the rate at which we're going, it's going to take anywhere between 18 to 25 years to do so. The title of this article is "Canadian Government Has to Allow Home Prices to Fall to Make Housing More Affordable, Experts Say." The way they plan to do that is to continue to add supply to the market to prevent the growth in prices and allow wages to catch up to prices. In order to do that, though, they said it would take about 18 years to return to the more affordable home price to income ratios we've seen in 2005 in other provinces, and then in Ontario and British Columbia, where most Canadians live, it would take roughly 25 years. Simply slowing the growth of prices and letting wages catch up is clearly not enough, but the problem is that we can't build too much, because if we build too much, we are going to actually devalue the thing that holds a lot of Canadians' wealth. So we can't just slash the value of home prices altogether, we can only stop them from growing further. Seriously, at this rate, it is a very slow burn. And what is so great about Canadian real estate if it stops going up in value? Isn't that the whole point?
Yeah, she has a really good point there, because Canadian real estate, again, compared to other countries, yeah, it's really just a good asset that holds value. But if you think about the life in Canada and the winters and everything like that, what really is that great about having Canadian real estate? A lot of people are just want it to go up. I still think housing should be affordable for everyone, because at the end of the day, you never get your rent money back, but if you sell your house, at least you can get something back. You know, I don't need my house to go up in price all the time. I think it's actually fine if it goes down in price. You know, do I want it to go to $0? No, because then you can't recoup anything back from your house. But regardless, this is a pretty interesting video. We're going to dive into a lot more.
That in 2019, we adopted into the law that housing is a human right. If you go outside, I'm sure you see that Canada is not fulfilling that promise or following the law. In fact, homelessness has increased by 20% over the past 5 years. The biggest cause for homelessness? Housing inaffordability and unavailability. After Gregor Robertson was nominated to be the Housing Minister of Canada in the federal government, he instantly said, "I do not want housing prices to go down." This stands in stark contrast to what all experts are saying about the housing crisis, that prices need to go down. Experts are predicting that it'll take 18 to 25 years for our wages to catch up with current housing prices, and that's assuming that housing prices do not go up along with inflation. Of course, we all know that's impossible. I have gone to the National Assembly in Quebec and sat down with provincial politicians of every view. I have gone to federal events. I have spoken to federal ministers about the housing crisis, and all of them give me the same answer. It's about supply. Of course, this represents an incredible misunderstanding of how the housing market works, considering that without proper government intervention as well as laws that actually put these things into place and prevent people from charging absurd amounts of money for rent, then money and prices will not go down. With Mark Carney and the new Liberal government, as well as any other government that could have been elected if it was Poilievre or anyone else, the housing crisis will get worse. There has been no real will from any politician who has any significant power to bring down the housing crisis. Instead, both the Conservatives and Liberals are going to increase the housing crisis over the next 10 years, unless we do something about it.
Well, yeah, and then we also, appointed a prime minister who made a lot of his fortune in real estate. Does he want prices to go down? He literally anointed a housing minister that said prices shouldn't go down.
Let's find out why more Canadians are sidelined from home buying. The first reason here, absolutely agree with it. Recession has scared off a lot of people, and there's uncertainty in the air. So that is probably the main reason that I've seen happen in the last 2 to 3 months. The next part here, a little bit of a confusing one for me personally. Last year, a lot of people were asking for lower rates, and rates are lower, whether it's fixed rates or variable rates. And then here, waiting for rates to drop below 3%, think in reality, we're not going to be seeing anything under 3% in the near future like we had leading up to the pandemic and that peak that we had in 2021, 2022. Now, this last survey, not really understanding the perspective from the buyer, and I'd love your thoughts on it. I've missed their chance to buy, 56%, 66% their window has closed, and 14% have pushed their plans. That part I can agree with, but Mr. Chance, I'm not sure why they would feel that way with housing prices having dropped. And yes, they have not dropped to below 2019, 2020 levels. However, they have dropped and they haven't been moving much price-wise, and the rates have dropped. So I'm not sure where that sentiment comes from.
Yeah, houses have dropped in price a little bit, you know, since the pandemic highs, but they still haven't really went down to pre-2019 levels, which is what a lot of people are waiting for, because a lot of that money, the supply, you know, that went towards houses and everything has just propped up the real estate values. And honestly, nothing else has really come down in price apart from maybe condos, and even condos are still around 2020 prices. So it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, they said 18 to 25 years in previous videos as well, and those articles have been talked about a lot on social media, 18 to 25 years, and this is assuming, of course, that the prices of houses don't go up over this period of time, which would be insane if they don't. Like, you'd have to have a massive amount of supply for them to not budge at all in price.
Being landlords run a deficit every single month. Being a landlord isn't something that I'm planning on doing for too much longer. It's something everyone is getting out of.
High immigration is what fueled the high rent prices in the first place. In July 2024, international migration peaked at over 1 million people in a year. But now, especially with a new cap on international students, fewer people need rentals, and it impacted the GTA most, the lowest rent growth in the country. Did you ever think that you were going to be renting a property for less than you had just months before?
I didn't think that, because at the time when I had bought it, we had so many competing offers. We're thinking about doing a further reduction, and I'll be putting in money out of my pocket.
How long can you handle that?
I guess we'll see how long it goes for, possibly selling the property.
But for many landlords, selling right now isn't a great option either. The average condo price at the end of last year was $690K. That's down nearly 2% from the year before, and quite a departure from the 10-year historical trend.
Well, it is literally the perfect storm. If you bought it more recently, in the last 5 or 6 years, you could have a financial hardship, but it's very much a crisis. You have to take action. You just can't keep losing money. It can really only get worse.
How much worse can it get?
It's possible that so few people will be able to close that they won't be able to start a condominium corporation, and they've got to tell their bank that they don't know how they can pay them back. It could be that bad.
It's not clear how many small-time landlords are potentially going to need to sell at a loss, but it is clear they make up a big part of the overall market. The share of condo apartments in Toronto that are rented is 41%. That's the highest share in the country.
Partly the reason why you have cheap rents is because a landlord can't sell in this market. Let me rent it out, and you have added inventory that's great for tenants. But if landlords all get out of the market and you all start selling your rental units, you will see that rental rate go right back up. And that's not what we want. It's not a healthy rental market to be in.
What a healthy market needs is stability, where supply and demand are better matched.
My God, there's so much contradictions in that video. It's actually baffling. Yeah, like they're making it seem like 2% is such a massive decline. And then they said at the end of the video that, you know, if like you sell it and the rent prices go down, and then once you sell it, people will basically buy it and then the rent prices will go back up. So then why sell it? Like, why are you selling it then, right? Like, isn't it such a great investment in Canada to own condos and real estate? So kind of ridiculous sentiment in that video, but I just wanted to share a differing opinion. And you can also kind of see it's a bit of a propaganda piece, because it's trying to cause alarm bells in a market where it's like, wow, prices went down by 2%. Isn't it a good opportunity to buy? And they kind of leave that sentiment at the end of the video. It's going to be a good opportunity, guys. You want to buy some condos? No. one wants to buy condos in Toronto anymore. It's done, okay? The international student gravy train is gone.
Canada's housing crisis. Does the Canadian government need to allow home prices to fall for affordable housing? Here's all the info from this online article. And here are a couple quotes from Canadian housing experts about this crisis in Canada. And one of these experts believes it would take almost 18 years to return to more affordable home price to income ratios. And if you live in Ontario, it's 25 years. And here's what Mark Carney and his Liberal government are doing to fix this housing crisis in our country. So my fellow Canadians, what are your thoughts? And how do we fix this housing crisis?
So it's going to take 18 to 25 years, and is he expecting to be in power for 18 to 25 years to, fully see this thing out? I don't think that's going to happen, right? So 18 to 25 years is a crisis that's affecting people who want to buy houses now, so they might as well, leave the country? Because they're not waiting 18 to 25 years, let's be honest.
Homeless man who lives in a van, I would say I am very interested in the housing crisis. Turns out the housing crisis we're in right now is the longest lasting housing crisis there's ever been, and I always thought it was a little strange that our government kept doing nothing about it. But there's a journalist named Isaac Peltz who found the answer for that. They were putting in requests to find out which MPs and government officials have landownings and are landlords who are perpetuating the housing crisis, and it turns out the government didn't want to give them that information. They had to, but they didn't want to. They sent them an email being like, this is going to take forever, you should just probably turn back now. But guess what? Isaac didn't turn back. Now, after months of research alongside their journalist partner Gabrielle, they have created a podcast called Building the Crisis that tells you all about what the housing crisis actually is, how it became this way, and why it's still going. This is a shameless but unpaid plug. I think it's just good journalism and that you should know about this.
Yeah, so if there's a lot of politicians in Canada that own multiple properties and own real estate and have rental income coming in as well, you have to ask yourself, are they incentivized to fix this crisis? Probably not. I don't think they ever really will truly put a solid effort into fixing this housing crisis. But leave your thoughts about that down below in the comment section. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think that the housing crisis will actually get solved in the next 4 to 8 years? Leave your thoughts about that down below in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.